A lot of news in Washington out of now a second federal judge essentially ruling that the subpoenas issued by Congress to financial institutions seeking President Trump's personal family financial documents, that those subpoenas must be honored, that those financial institutions must give Trump's personal financial information to Congress. And I'm going to hit in a moment why that is so egregious. But it occurred to me as I was getting ready for today's show, it's really important sometimes to put the context or a larger picture around these kind of stories. What we are watching happen in Washington and is really the playing out of the conduct of the radical American left, now in control of the Democrat Party. And what I want to just talk about first is how they do things, so we can begin to identify these tactics as they're played out over and over and over and over. There's a fabulous expression of French they reminded me of. It's called, the American left are narrative engineers. Isn't that great? Narrative engineers. They decide the story they want America to think is a story, and they engineer it like an engineer would create a new part or a new vehicle or a new invention. They invent and mold and create narratives. In particular, a tactic that has been recently used over and over and over, and again is being used right now by Joe Biden as he's running for the Democrat presidential nomination. He has been calling himself, as he's been saying, I'm the unifier and Trump is a divider. And understanding the tactic behind that really matters. Since the moment Donald Trump won the Republican nomination and then won the presidency and then has served in the presidency, the American left, in the form of the media that deplores President Trump, virtually every Democrat in Washington, many left-wing organizations in this country have agitated and agitated and agitated against everything he says, everything he does, everything he's done in his past, whatever his positions are, whatever his policies are. They have created anger and division among the people who listen to what these outlets say, the people who listen and actually believe CNN and MSNBC and New York Times and the Washington Post and the Democrat leadership of the House and the Senate. If people believe those spokespeople, then you end up thinking this is a deeply divided country. Look at this. Look how much outrage there is. You have to get this clear. The left is creating the division. They're creating the outrage, and then the left-wing media mob reports it as, oh my goodness, look at all the division in this country. They're reporting the outcome of their own conduct. They are reporting division they have created, and they want America to seem divided. It's one of their arguments against President Trump. Because to be clear, Trump supporters, Trump has the highest support among Republican voters as any president of their own party has had in recent history. It's like 90% of Republican voters approve of the job President Trump is doing. When the left talks about division, what they really mean is they don't like President Trump. And because they don't like him, they won't acknowledge that his own voters agree with him, agree with his policies, agree with how he's handling the challenges America faces. Another kind of foundational idea to recognize about the American left, what their mission is. Their mission is always to engineer narratives. It is also and always to grow their power. It is always to accumulate more power in Washington, more control over the individual, more control over the economy, more control over each individual person's right to work, to achieve, to save, to dream, to earn money, to become successful. The American left lives to gain and have power over the American people. It is their primary mission, not the mission to respect the individual's rights to the freedoms spelled out in the Constitution, not to respect the Bill of Rights, not to respect the ideas spelled out in the Declaration of Independence, right of each individual to live in freedom, to pursue his life, liberty, and his version of happiness. This is not the mission of the American left. It is always and only the accumulation of more power and control over the American people. You have to have these mindsets straight and understand them before you can correctly understand everything the left is up to. The last point I want to make about the overarching way in which the left's moves, statements, and conduct must be understood is this. Left-wing policies don't work. The American left has figured out, and the American people have figured out, that left-wing policies don't work. Big government policies have impoverished the poor in this country. Big government policies and massive government assistance programs have destroyed the American nuclear family, have destroyed inner city America, have destroyed the childhood and the lives of millions of children who live in single-parent households because the American government created programs that destroyed the nuclear unit, the nuclear family. And the Democrat Party realizes this. They realize they cannot sell their policies. They can't tell you what they really believe, because if they do, you wouldn't vote for them. So they lie. Or to summarize a point I'll be making over and over and over, you have been lied to by the American left. You have been lied to over and over and over about what they really believe in, what they will do when they get power, and what their policies will do to the American people. And because their policies don't work, they have to sell you narratives. They sell you lies. They sell slogan slinging. They spend their time labeling everyone who won't agree with whatever the policies that they want, that those people must be viewed as racist, xenophobic, hateful, homophobic, some kind of phobic. Because instead of intelligent exchange of ideas, instead of going back and forth discussing policies, discussing ideas, the American left can't win that argument, and they know that. So they try to win the argument by duping and lying to the American people about policies, about ideas, about where we are in this country, and at this moment, especially about President Trump. They can't have Americans. They can't have their own voters. The left cannot have their own voters recognizing how well America is flowing under the conservative ideas that Donald Trump has put in place in Washington. This is the big picture paradigm through which you have to see what the left does. Now we'll turn to talking about the subpoenas from the House committees, the various committees in Washington in Congress of President Trump's financial records. The short story is, because the American left told their own voters, before President Trump even won the presidency, that there was something going on, Russia-Trump collusion, something's bad here, bad, 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 bad. And they staked everything on that. They told the American people, don't worry, his victory is illegitimate. He's not really president. He doesn't deserve to be president. He didn't win. There was outside interference. There was Russia-Trump collusion. Somehow he stole this election. And after all the money America spent on the Mueller investigation, after all that money, all that time, all of that vitriol strewn across headlines around America every day since President Trump became president, the Mueller report came out, and the left was proven to have lied. Or, to be kind, to have been completely duped and misinformed. The left sold the argument to the American people that Trump really didn't win, and therefore he's not legitimate, and America found out the left was wrong. So now the Democrats in Washington are in panic mode because they thought they could get rid of President Trump once the Mueller report came out. That they could get rid of this guy who dared to win an election that they thought was guaranteed for Hillary Clinton to win. And so they are turning to various tactics, trying to still attack President Trump. They are spending zero time, Democrats in Washington, zero time on addressing all these issues they claim, well, we can find bipartisan solutions. We could work on infrastructure, which we're going to get to in a moment. We could work on all sorts of things. They don't want to work on anything. They want to find a reason to destroy President Trump. It is their reason for living. It is their reason for getting up every day. Destroy President Trump somehow. So the left started on this subpoenaing of President Trump's financial records. And there is a federal law that permits congressional committees, limited committees, to seek the president's tax information, which that is an ongoing battle, and to seek other information pertaining to, as long as they have a legitimate legislative purpose. And that is the argument right now. The American left, the Democrats in Washington, are claiming they need all these documents related to President Trump's financial records and financial past, and his children and his grandchildren. I mean, massive documentation about his finances, and they are seeking it because they say they have a legitimate legislative purpose to continue to try to figure out if there was foreign influence in the 2016 elections. Now, it is a kindergartner could see through. This is a ruse. This is another hoax. This is an effort. Anything they can do to get President Trump, this effort to get his tax records, his financial records, It's not about legitimate legislative purpose of any kind. It is about getting information which, you know, as sure as I'm sitting here talking to you, that information will be leaked to the public. It'll be in the Washington Post or New York Times or one of the other Democrat media mob news sources, and it will be out there, and at the very least, it will allow the Democrats to just get hysterical about the idea that President Trump is so wealthy and look at all the money he has, and look at this transaction, and why did he spend money on this? And then it'll give them 1,000 other reasons for further investigation. Well, look at this. He spent money in this country. Wonder if that country possibly interfered. I don't know. It will give them fodder from now till the election of 2020 to keep digging for something they can argue to the American people justifies President Trump's impeachment. That is what they are doing. That is what this is all about. And so we've had two federal judges agree that as the law is written, or I should say, two federal district court judges, both Democrat, both appointed by President Obama, who have agreed that the way the federal law is written, that Congress has the right to subpoena President Trump's financial information from numerous financial institutions. Apparently, two of those institutions have already turned over the information to Congress. I'm telling you, by the time we're back together next week on Monday, that information will be somehow leaked. It's already been turned over to Congress. There was actually, I was going to tell you which ones had turned the information over already. Wells Fargo and another bank I hadn't heard of, TD Bank, turned over his financial records to the House Financial Services Committee. Fox News confirmed that today. Other institutions are also apparently going to do that. The Trump administration talking about maybe appealing that, and maybe they will. But at this point, a big part of the, as they say, the cat's out of the bag. I wanted to mention one other thing, just as proof of my point that the Democrats have no interest in all the things they claim they have interest in. You may recall, we talked about, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago or so, about the fact that the president or the administration had made an emergency request of Congress to please fund more money, please put more money toward the border, but in specifics, not for the wall. Not for the wall, just money to help buttress up the Border Patrol and enable them to provide proper care for the migrant children crossing the border, proper housing, proper care. It was all related to much of it was related to humanitarian assistance, and it was related to just simply securing the border. This wasn't about the fuss about the wall. It's just about the idea of making sure we adequately can care for people crossing the border. So, brilliant piece out on Fox today, and you can find it on our website, americacanwetalk.org, homepage, under shows, go down, list of links, you'll find it there. Representatives Chip Roy, actually who's a good friend of mine, Texas Congressman, Jim Jordan, and another guy, Andy Biggs, wrote this article essentially saying the Democrats are so driven to destroy President Trump that they can't even respond to a request for emergency funding, and it includes emergency funding for the unaccompanied alien children program. These children the Democrats care about so much, they've been whining and moaning about how Trump doesn't care. Look what's happening at the border. They won't fund that program, which is due to run out of money. So, my friends, as I close out the first five, let me tell you again, it's important, more important than these financial documents, which will clearly be leaked to the press because that's what Democrats do. But more than that, you need to start to recognize that between now and the election of 2020, everything the Democrats do, everything this radical left-wing element that has taken over the Democrat Party, that is the Democrat Party in Washington, everything they do can be understood through the lenses I told you at the start of this first five. They live to create power, to acquire power. They are narrative engineers. Everything that happens will be engineered by them into a narrative that is false. They are creating division intentionally because division helps them. It stirs up their base to think that somehow President Trump has caused the division when they're the ones causing a division by acting outraged over everything President Trump does.